Beating Pergarel of Sweden 4-0. One of the best servers in the game, very difficult to play, but Zhendong steady in that. An average of a little less than 5 points per game, it appears. Then over Alexander Shibaev of Russia, 4-1. Then a 4-2 victory over Ruin Filus. And again, for a defender to take 2 games off of Zhendong, really impressive. So let's see what else after that. It was Koki Niwa yesterday. And the amount of championship titles, you can see the results here. Look how many championship titles we have: 2008, 9, 11, 15, and 16. So we're keeping track. I know Ma Long is chasing Vladimir Samsonov for World Tour titles, but as world champion, this is just dominant performance out here. And again, it's been a question of time. World rank number 2, Zhendong, with explosive power on both sides. He's got the touch. He showed us that roller under the net clamp against Simon Gozid at one point of the year last year. So with all these qualities, like Jonathan Groth said in his Ask a Pro Anything interview, the mental game is what really sets apart a professional and a champion. Lots of people in the world can loop the ball powerfully from both sides and have touch. What are your thoughts, Gavin?
Yeah, that's exactly it. You get to the world number 1, 2, 3, 4. It really is a mental game. You know, possibly on the world tour, these guys are playing with small injuries throughout the season, but you always feel when it gets to the really big pinnacle event of the year, it's the outstanding 2 that do get to the final. The world number 1, world number 2, thoroughly deserve for both players here on screen to be here in this final.
Yeah, we always feel, I feel like about a year ago, we look head-to-head between these two, and Zhendong has only won once on the World Tour against Ma Long. It was in the China Open in 2016. It was a 4-0 victory, but Ma Long has won every other encounter. He's 10-1 against Zhendong, although we do have to look at the most recent matches to really understand the relevance of these statistics. Not to mention, at 28 years old, Ma Long might be at his peak, but he's definitely at the peak. He's not still, we would think he's not still on his way up. He could continue improving. He seems to be maintaining his level, but there's not much other place to go than down from here. By the time he's 30, if he's still able to keep up this performance, Zhendong is going to be 22 years old and still on the incline on his way up. Solid backhand at the back of the table early in the match. Again, players still feeling each other out. They were actually warming each other up in the practice hall, interestingly enough. Now, we talk a lot about mental focus. In the practice hall just earlier, there was a member of the staff who had a medical emergency that was quite scary, and I noticed Zhendong, everyone was watching in concern, but Zhendong was very focused and made sure that he kept his head in the match for practice here. That could be very distracting, and there's no question it got in the heads of pretty much everyone there, you know, human beings feeling for one another. Not a point dropped yet from the focused Xiaopang, Zhendong. You know, you and I, Gavin, talked about his sweet spot and how big it is on the backhand side. That ball's a wide to the backhand shot, and he's moving to get to it, but still able to counter and generate a lot of pace. It's always like he's making his shot while moving to set up for the next. So fast. First point from Ma Long so far. And by the way, as we get started on this match, if you have any questions for the commentators, you can send them into the social media at ITTF World on all social media. Hashtag Ask the Commentator. Gavin and I will be happy to take those questions.
And that's interesting there. Zhendong opting in this early exchange to go with the little reverse serve. It's a very similar action to the Zhang Jike reverse serve.
Right, they are quite signature, and I feel like because we've seen Zhendong playing later into most tournaments than we've seen Zhang Jike recently, he's almost sort of taking ownership over that serve, the reverse pendulum. And I have to take it back to that meal in Kuwait a few years ago, 2015, with Ma Long and Zhendong. And one thing Ma Long said is, he said, "I wish I was fatter," which he said with affection, like Zhendong, so I could hit with more power. And the power has been so evident out here. Now, Gavin, I was talking to someone earlier from breakfast. Fan Zhendong had a plate full of Nutella and bacon, which you wouldn't expect an athlete maybe in the past to be eating, but he was loading up on animal fats and a lot of stuff to make sure he had an unusual amount of energy. Short side of the table, beautiful shot from Ma Long. We're seeing some slow sort of development on Ma Long's side of the table, Gavin. What do you think could be responsible other than the quality of Fan Zhendong's shots?
Yeah, he's just misfiring a little bit early on. You know, it's important that he can find a little foothold in this match, possibly touching a little bit shorter than he is at the moment to get that first attack into a right area.
There's the St. Bride vase that they'll be playing for since 1929 in London to honor Fred Perry winning the title. 1929. A lot of people don't think of Fred Perry for his table tennis, but tennis and table tennis. A bit like you, Gavin.
I think it'll be a while since until we see that repeated, though. Someone winning a major in both tennis and table tennis.
I know Monfils is quite a recreational player. Oh, burns him on the short side of the table. When you have a set plan like that, it can be dangerous to turn the corner too early.
What was really good about that as well, Fan Zhendong going against that side spin. A lot of the time you would find that left-hand fast side spin, the ball would ping back into the corner where Ma Long had ran round.
It's much like we were talking about in doubles, using the side spin to set up the placement for the third ball. So bravo to Fan Zhendong. A little bit off the top of the net, but power for power, the backhands just explode one after another. Landmines going off at the corners of the table.
But that was better there. Ma Long just settling things down a little bit round the net. That's where he can sometimes be in the ascendancy.
So while he's made a comeback by quite a bit, he still has a ways to go. Fan Zhendong again, much like as far as the mental game, just like the other players against Ma Long who are strong underdogs, where Fan Zhendong is not, it's important that he gets in early to keep Ma Long playing nervous and keep a bit of confidence on his side of the table. So quick with that backhand, just a bullet back down the line, a parallel shot anyway. Now 5 game points for Fan Zhendong to take the first with authority. Look at the quads on Fan Zhendong. The little wishbone above the kneecap. Well placed to the middle of the table.
And that's what you have to do. If you're not going to trade someone power to power, you have to think of another way to win points. That'll be either little short exchanges round the net or little subtle changes in direction throughout the rallies.
So 1 game point saved. The serves are on the side of Fan Zhendong. Well-placed push deep on the table. Fast, long push, you know, can be so good if the surprise factor is there and it's deep.
And as long as you don't just go right onto a wing.
Right, well placed in the middle there by Ma Long. Those back. What an effort from Ma Long, and what determination and focus from Fan Zhendong to finish that point. This is going to be in the highlights for sure. Look at this one more time. I felt like the patience of Fan Zhendong was so impressive to keep Ma Long from getting the first attack. Very confident play from the 20-year-old, and Fan Zhendong 11-7 over the standing world champion and Olympic gold medalist in Game 1. We'll be back for Game 2 right after this. As the drums were beaten, Ma Long was beaten in Game 1 as well. Now we saw a chance, I'd say we got a chance to look at the rackets and the equipment on the table. Ma Long's racket and Fan Zhendong's racket. It appeared that the sponge on Fan Zhendong's forehand was a bit thicker than Ma Long's. What were your thoughts on that, Gavin, with the table tennis legends and whatnot?
Yeah, obviously with the thicker sponge, that means there's a bit more of that trampoline effect of the ball going into the sponge and then accelerating out. So that straight away, that would tell us that Fan Zhendong has a slightly quicker racket than Ma Long. And funny, when we go back to legends of the game, the Swedish legends of Jan-Ove Waldner and Jörgen Persson, they always opted to use the 1.9 sponge, which was notably thinner than other players. So giving them a little bit more touch.
Excellent shot, playing the high risk. That is a very interesting thing to pay attention to. I mean, Waldner often thought of as the greatest touch of all time. And then what you're willing to sacrifice. People always ask, what would you recommend? I'm just getting started, or who knows? But yeah, different preferences for different players, of course. Fan Zhendong, the cannon on both sides, and the touch. Almost, if that one comes back around the net. We got another shot of the year potential here. The angle, look how far he has to go to get that. There was one point with Zhang Jiko where he was going the opposite way and slid back to recover a net ball. It was so amazing. Again, turns just early enough, I guess I should say just late enough to not give away the opening, but early enough to get around this ball and play it down the line.
And that's a sign of a champ. He was really misfiring in that first set, but he still has the confidence to try these shots. Just because they were missing in the first set, you've got to keep going.
Beautiful rally and an excellent finish from Fan Zhendong. You know, we're talking about confidence. For his whole career, Ma Long was winning. He had a head-to-head winning record against Zhang Jiko, but when the match became important, Zhang Jiko would always steal the title, and it seemed like a confidence reducer, something that just Ma Long needed confidence, and in 2015 he found that and hasn't been stopped since, hasn't slowed down. But it seems like Fan Zhendong's finding some real confidence.
That's world-class play from Fan Zhendong, but I feel there, the last couple of points, they've been really good points for Ma Long as well. The backhand exchange in the second last point, he changed the pace. So he's not going to compete fast against Fan Zhendong. And then that second point there, he went to the middle. So he's thinking really clearly too.
And I think it was the Men's World Cup final. I'll look it up. But that had a very similar backhand-to-backhand exchange with Ma Long changing pace. Match point, it was at 10-9 in Game 7. After Ma Long was up 10-6, Fan Zhendong scored 3 in a row. And that confidence on the backhand side, and sometimes not hitting it hard shows your confidence, that you're willing to change the pace and deal with the heat and give it right back to the opponent. Again, soft touch to the rocket, backhand off the bounce, allowing Fan Zhendong to open first. Very bold play.
And it was really bold play round the net there as well. He was doing a little bit more on the receive. He wasn't just touching shot with less spin so that Fan Zhendong could spin out quickly.
Just incredible points to recover that ball from wide to the forehand to get back into the backhand blocking and fishing game. And again, Fan Zhendong is going to try to keep Ma Long pinned in the backhand and only go to the forehand in this situation when he thinks it's out of reach. That was dangerous. Ma Long got a good rip at the ball, but fortunately for Fan Zhendong, Ma Long was just so far back.
I think when you're in that situation as well, when you're as far back as that, you have to send in a ripping chop, or you have to re-loop off both wings with a huge shot. Now, the lobbing the ball back on the table for 6 or 7 is just not enough. You can see Ma Long there looking to change the pace again.
A lot of the conversation coming into this, everyone was really seriously considering these two. There were a few others that were contenders, as we saw in the video, and between Lin Gaoyuan, Xu Xin, maybe Dima, Timo Boll, Zhang Jike. That is going for broke. Gavin, you wanted to see a chop there?
Could have been the German Steffi Graf in the tennis. A nice little chiseling slice is what I hoped I was going to see there. It was all set up here. Look at this.
If that ball comes down, it's going to be deep into the body on the backhand side. Very difficult and ambitious shot for Ma Long to take. But again, with that confidence comes some fearlessness, and he will take risks. Big point to break the momentum. I remember 5-2 on the scoreboard, and suddenly it was a one-point game. Now, I brought up the past, talking about the chances of these two. Everyone expected these two to be playing in the final. And you get a lot of different opinions about who it's going to be. And it feels like Ma Long still has the upper hand just based on mental maturity and experience under pressure. Looking at the results again, 10-1 head-to-head is quite a statement, because Fan Zhendong has been world number 2 for some time now.
And the way that the world ranking list has changed as well, and you know, triple points for this event, triple bonus points as well. If Ma Long was to win this, he really would stay ahead for at least another 5 or 6 months.
And I think he's got a bit of comfort there as well. I think it'll take a while, even if Fan Zhendong wins, before he takes over the #1 world ranking.
Great start to this final though. Both players playing some of their best table tennis, and this is where you want to be doing that, not out in the practice hall, right here.
What determination. This ball from Fan Zhendong from below the table is loaded with top and side spin, and relatively shallow on the table. Ma Long, look at this, about 1.5 feet, maybe 2 feet inside the line, and Ma Long reaches forward, keeps the racket closed. You talked about that tacky top sheet on the Chinese national team rubber. Very closed racket, very important for Ma Long. Short side of the table, and the risk pays off. Ma Long with 4 game points to tie it up. This could be a 7-game extravaganza, and the way Ma Long is playing right now, he's definitely turning things around.
He's not won many points when it's been fast diagonal exchanges, so he's had to use that brain of his, playing to the middle, playing some shots down the wings.
Nice change of pace, soft with the first backhand, and Ma Long comes back with the speed after baiting Fan Zhendong into the first rocket backhand. 11-6 for the dictator, the dragon, Ma Long, and we'll be back for game 3 right after this. Back for game 3. Ma Long in red at the bottom of the screen ties it up. Again, the change of pace, a real success for Ma Long. Now again, we got to have some conversation at break. We were talking about world rankings and the new system. Looking at the points between them, it's actually much closer than I realized. Fan Zhendong might be able to come out world number 1 if he wins this match. See, fired up indeed. You know, the rivalry is interesting because the camaraderie of being on the same national team, practice partners and close friends, maybe even mentors on some level. When you're out here, it's all business, and the fight is actually a sign of respect, giving your all. Using the length of the table for all that power and speed.
You can see how much Ma Long has to think out there. In his other matches, he can just play fairly standard, but here he's mixing the serves, he's mixing the placements as often as he can.
That ball there too wide, a bit of side spin on it, hooking out to the forehand side. So with the new ranking system, I have a chance to see what the world rankings would be, and Ma Long would still be world number 1 over Fan Zhendong, but Zhang Jiko would actually be number 5 in the world, and Wang Chunting would be number 4. For those of you curious about the new world ranking system, it basically means that how far you get in a tournament determines how many points you get rather than who the opponent is that you beat. So if you beat Ma Long in the round of 64, for example, it's worth no more than if you beat, you know, the 64th seed. It will encourage more participation so that you have a chance, hopefully, to see your favorite players, the Big Four from China and all others at the top of the world on the world tour pretty consistently. Wow, too fast, so deep on the table. When he keeps it that close to the baseline, sometimes you question yourself to even know if it made it. You could hear that little tick before it hit the shirt, maybe a little bit off the top.
And those of you back home thinking, oh, winner speed 75 kilometers an hour, that doesn't appear very fast. You think about it, sport like tennis, 20 meters between you and your opponent. In table tennis, you've only got 4 or 5 meters between the two of you. And this would be equivalent to someone like Roger Federer trying to serve, and you're actually on the same side of the court as him trying to return that service. I mean, lightning quick reactions you need for table tennis.
Indeed, the reaction time. It actually comes down to equipment, not comes down to, but includes the equipment that you use that's built for this type of speed. The angle there that Fan Zhendong created with the backhand. You mentioned before how difficult it is for the wrist to go that way. The natural inclination would be played down the line. I think it was in doubles you talked about this. But Fan Zhendong pulling some magic out there from over the table. So well timed with that rocket backhand. Ma Long really seems to be setting up some plays and getting the shots he wants right into the wheelhouse to win the points. Sees Fan Zhendong turning the corner, stays in at the table, gets the racket out in front to keep the ball coming back quickly. Look at that, still a bit of topspin on it with the wrist.
For all you guys and girls back home there, notice there, from a technical standpoint, the way that the elbow didn't move. If the elbow had moved upwards at all, that ball would have went off the end of the table.
Wow, the power doesn't faze Ma Long. And right after you talk about the elbow, we see when we would use that raised elbow, when you're in near the table and need to generate all the spin. Look at the Ma Long fan club there with the Ma Long hats. Tiaras, maybe. Got some interesting questions coming in here. We'll try to take them on towel break. So Ma Long up 9-3 as we go to the second towel break. Now this question I'm going to send to you because you're an equipment maker yourself, Gavin. The question is from Jakob Pfeiffer. Does one of the players use a carbon sponge? Now, generally carbon, of course, applying to the blade. And I know Ma Long has his own blade and Fan Zhendong is playing with the Stiga. Do you know the specifics and ingredients if they have carbon in their blades?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the carbon results in a much faster surface. Sometimes with there's carbon that's a little bit faster, you have a soft carbon as well, so that can always give you a little bit more touch around the net. So yeah, it depends how you play the game. It depends on a player's style as to what carbon they would use.
Awesome, good to know. I'll have some more questions for you about different surfaces in a bit. It's 7 game points for Ma Long. Trying to scoop it up from under the table, but no dice. 11-3, a dominant performance for Ma Long to take his second game in a row. It's a 2-1 lead for the Olympic gold medalist and the standing defending world champion Ma Long. Game 4 coming up right after this. And a fan making a very cool sign. I believe it was from the last time that Ma Long won the major title. Jumped up on the table, pointed out to the audience. That was 2015 in Suzhou when Ma Long took the world championship. So we were talking a little bit about the surface and the material of the blades, from hinoki to all wood, and you were telling me a little bit about that, Gavin?
Yeah, I mean the hinoki wood that's from Japan, the cypress tree, that gives a wonderful touch and feeling around the net. And obviously with the game the way it's going now, with so many players looking to flick out and dominate, it's important as well that you can put an emphasis on being able to feel the ball and the deft touch around the net.
Now, I think this next question that comes in is quite a good one for that point. The Wemo asks, do you think the Chinese players relax and explode before every shot to maintain powerful shots? You know, Gavin, I'll let you take this one as the color and the expert here.
Yeah, I mean, obviously these guys, what's really important in the duration of a longer rally is that you breathe properly. A lot of these guys are actually exhaling as they hit. Otherwise you get halfway through the rally and you don't have any energy left. A little bit like runners as well, it's important that you breathe really well, especially if you're in a long lobbing rally or a loop-to-loop rally. There's that little bit of exhale as you hit the ball.
And sometimes we can hear it a second after when Dima's playing. It's funny in weightlifting as well. You can think about it. When you're blowing out, when you're exhaling, is when you're putting in the most effort. So the breath is super important, and I think knowing how to balance relaxing and exploding with power is the most efficient way. Much like a hybrid vehicle, it knows when to use the gas and when to run on batteries. Same with the players out here. They really have to take care of their bodies for maximum performance. This could be an hour, 15-minute match. Although the speed of some of the points, the rally lengths, I think they're getting into it pretty quickly. There's not quite as much touch play over the table, and I guess they're both being stubborn to not back off the table, trying to stay in and stay aggressive, so the points are ending a little quicker than usual. To cover that ball as wide as Fan Zhendong gets in with that wrist and plays it out with the Chiquita. Ma Long reaching, but the way he reaches, it's almost like he leaves his feet behind so that he doesn't get out of position at all and can quickly just flex his body back up and recover. Now, Gavin, you had the experience of playing T-Mobile, and you were saying how it's a whole different level out here. Are you excited to challenge one of these two?
Yeah, I mean, it's just really world-class stuff. And, you know, there's only so much you can see from a computer screen or a TV as well. Until you actually play these guys, it's really, really tough when you're out there on table one having to compete against one of these sensational players.
And that was Heinz the Hornman in full effect for the around-the-net shot that Fan Zhendong just hit that was chop blocked back by Ma Long to win the point. Again, for those of you at home, the chop block is a last resort from the backhand that has some backspin and a lot of side spin on it, and it's tough to tell how much there is of which. Smart play. The ball was left out in front of Ma Long, and he uses a lot of wrist and a lot of spin to make a secure shot instead of going for a clear winner. But Gavin, when they showed Fan Zhendong's hand before the serve, it looked like it was shaking.
That's just the adrenaline kicking in. Massive amounts of adrenaline go into all sports, really, to get yourself fired up and to be able to play at this really, really high level.
And again, for those of you at home who are a little bit newer to table tennis, the wiping of the hand on the table is to wipe the sweat off and make sure they have full grip. Right idea from Ma Long, one to the middle, then deep to the backhand, but it goes long off the net. How big of a factor do you think nerves are playing right now, Gavin?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, scoreboard pressure. I think Fan Zhendong will be slightly more anxious, a little bit nervous now.
I don't know about you, but after that exchange, which was quite impressive, Ma Long had a little bit more time here, and it seemed like he really just tried to do a bit too much and hit it harder than he needed to. Which is tough to say, because even 80% for Ma Long is so fast. And a timeout. Remember, neither player has a coach in their corner, as they are both from the same national association. Yesterday, I had a chance to see Lu Guoliang in the practice hall with Fan Zhendong, who was lying down near the table for a bit, maybe visualizing and just relaxing before his match. But these two practicing together this morning. And also Wang Hao I saw coaching Fan Zhendong as he was practicing with Zhou Yu earlier on in the tournament. Little fun fact about Fan Zhendong, he won the Men's World Cup last year. Ma Long not participating. So, in that tournament, by winning that, it means Fan Zhendong, if he wins this, will only need to win the Olympics to become a Grand Slam champion alongside Ma Long, Kong Linghui, Lu Guoliang, Waldner, and Zhang Jike, of course. I was like, who's the one I'm leaving out? The guy who got knocked out by Lee Song-soo earlier, the legend that half of the fans were here for in the first few days.
Yeah, Zhang Jike over the last few years, he was the big timer when it got to the big events. Interestingly, sometimes Zhang Jike not winning too many of the World Tour events, but when it got to the really nitty-gritty, the big events, he did step up in style, didn't he?
Absolutely. So this is pressure on both sides. Again, a 3-1 lead. You know, we saw with the women's singles final with Zhu Yuling and Ding Ning, it could have gone to Zhu Yuling being 3-1 up. And Ding Ning tying it up was crucial to sort of the momentum in that match.
Pivotal moment of the match now for Fan Zhendong. He needs to keep the heat on. He needs to be hitting the ball fast, get the power on the ball. It's Ma Long that needs to change placements, change spins, change directions.
Excellent backhand, changing directions, just like you said, Gavin.
And we've not seen enough of that from Fan Zhendong so far. It's just been his trademark backhand on the diagonal. That's what we've seen most of the time. But look at that lovely change.
So out of the timeout, Ma Long, you know, we talk about the first point out of the timeout as a morale boost. And Fan Zhendong stole the point. That can be pretty crushing. And he's got a second serve here to do it. That's an interesting call for the timeout on your opponent's serve. Wow, so we're seeing Ma Long getting a taste of his own medicine with these softer shots. For me, this is a real sign of confidence and mental maturity in the 20-year-old Fan Zhendong.
Fan Zhendong, he's improved over the last couple of sets. He started to get used to Ma Long's tactic of slowing it down, playing slower, arcing backhand topspins. So yeah, a lot of resilience shown, but really by both men.
Yeah, and it's something, you know, as Fan Zhendong might have more power. If you're all power, it's the versatility and the adaptability, say the improvisation that Ma Long brings to the game that makes him so tough. And look at this, baits him out, covers the middle of the table with the quick forehand, short stroke off the bounce for the winner.
Racket well out in front there.
And even that, the balance of Fan Zhendong, he was so far leaning over to the backhand corner, but because he's so fast, Ma Long still has the pressure to make that shot quickly, or else Fan Zhendong will reach it again on the wide forehand. I love that let receive back into your own side of the table. A little bit of swag from Fan Zhendong, shows some confidence and probably relaxes him a bit too. Big point to hang on to the 2-point lead. Again, once you've used your timeout, you want to make it worth it. You don't want to have to get deep in the match when you wish you had another one. Ma Long takes this game. Timeout will have been well spent.
And that was interesting there. Ma Long, the last few points, has just been dribbling the backhand over the net. Suddenly there, introduced a lot of power, and it was successful.
Strong opening, but once again, Ma Long relentless to reach out and cover that forehand. You have to imagine that even with the arm fully extended, he almost loosens up his grip to extend the racket from his hand to reach that.
And we were saying earlier about the contact point. When you're going for a big shot like that, it's important you catch the ball right out the tip of the racket. That's where it's really going to accelerate.
Beautiful inside-out step-around forehand attack from Fan Zhendong. Well, he has this shot clearly in his arsenal. It's a shot we just haven't seen come up too many times so far this match.
Well, that looked spectacular, but actually that was just a percentage play. A big reloop on the diagonal.
Right, he got a 75%er from Ma Long, and he could see that it was coming long cross court, so he set up and turned around. Lightning speed from both sides. 4 shots in a row exchanged as fast as anyone can hit him in the world. And again, their timing to stay close to the table for this. If you watch this replayed time and time again and you only watch one player, just consider how little time they have between each stroke, which is why it's so important that they're able to have the muscle strength to not only relax but recover and set up again. 3 game points for Ma Long to take a 3-1 lead. Oh, it almost comes back. The scooping shot from down below the table. I'd love to see that point again, Gavin.
That was a real grease ball of a spin up, and it almost had 2 bounces on the table. It was so low and slow.
Fan Zhendong with the punching. As soon as it comes up a little bit high, he's right back in at the table to take advantage and catch it before it drops. Here it is. The swoopy side spin from under the table, catches a little bit off the top of the net. Still not an easy ball. Wasn't very high when he hit it. So 2 serves if Fan Zhendong can get this point. Sounded like there was a little conversation with the umpire. Trying to look over at the hands of the umpire. Sometimes a service warning. Again, they are quite particular at this tournament, being the biggest tournament of the year. Strong start to the point, but Ma Long was just too good moving wide to the forehand, and it's 11-8 for the Dragon. It's 3 games to 1. This could be the last game of the men's singles event for the World Championships. Stay right here. Game 5 coming up. And the wave starts going around the stadium once again for the men's singles final. As we come back for Game 5, we've got a question from Lex Anders. Does hashtag Ma Long take the lead because he is preparing his attacks through avoiding the backhand of Fan Zhendong? Hashtag Fan Zhendong.
Well, he's certainly avoiding the fast backhand-to-backhand exchanges. If he plays to the backhand corner, he's doing it with less speed and a little bit more spin. Obviously, then when he turns and plays his forehands, he's looking to go into the middle and forehand of Fan Zhendong.
Excellent counter, pins Ma Long right in the chest with the shot. When I say chest, I feel like it actually has to be to the left shoulder from the start of this for it to be a problem for Ma Long to turn on. Looked like he tried to go around the net there to the short side. Well, Gavin, if you're Fan Zhendong right now, you've got Fan Zhendong's skill sets. What are you telling yourself before Game 5?
Well, what you're looking to do, you know, all these guys can play at an unbelievable level. I think he needs to introduce a bit more pace into the rallies again. Sometimes even serving a fast serve and getting into a quicker exchange.
Interesting tactic here. You can see clear frustration as he pounds his hip. He had played out wide to the forehand of Ma Long. He brought it a good foot closer to the center of the table this time, maybe hoping that Ma Long would overrun it or not get such a full-arm stroke, and that would set up the attack stronger for Fan Zhendong to the backhand corner. Beautiful shot, closing and really hugging around that ball to wrap around and play it to the short side for the winner, Gavin.
Super reloop there, and if we remember back to the previous game, when he stepped round that corner, he went safe and went on the diagonal. Not this time. Look at that shot.
He really has to fan the racket up and over and come down after the ball to keep it low to the short side. Again, less forgiveness, less margin for error. Nice change of pace from Fan Zhendong. Now for me, this is going to be a key ingredient as well, but the placement has to be so perfect. That moment when you both realize you're on TV. So for both of these players, neither of them has been pushed to Game 7 so far in this tournament. And I do think that is one statement about how strong their games are, even against their compatriots. They just haven't been tested the way that they have the chance to test each other out here right now. And Fan Zhendong really looking to take this game. You can see 5 points to 1. That he's going to have to stay focused, but the way he's focused right now, this could go the distance. Nice change, soft to the middle, and then fast rocket cross court. I know we were talking about this before. On the road to the final, Ma Long has lost more games than Fan Zhendong. 5 games have been lost by Ma Long, and only 4 have been dropped by Fan Zhendong.
But I think, you know, I think that's a good thing for Ma Long. He was pushed a little bit more in the run-up to this final.
Wow! Oh, it doesn't come down so close. I thought it was over. Turning to you, Gavin.
I've seen moments like that before when I've played at Commonwealth Games, and one of my teammates, Stuart Crawford, he went up with the early shout of yes, that's the end of the point. It certainly wasn't, and the ball came down onto the table. Not this time, though.
Pretty close to the net. If that comes down, you can bet the ball's going over the cameraman's heads. So here's an interesting one. We've got a question from @TableTennisDaily. Does Ma Long have any weakness?
I would say his weakness at the moment, but only at this absolute elite level. He's lacking that little bit of power in the muscling exchanges with Fan Zhendong. Struggling a little bit when it's just racket to racket on the diagonal.
You know, it's also been a rare occasion, but recently he was beaten by Jung Sang-un of Korea at the Asian Championships 3-1. And I think part of that's mental game. I've seen him get tight a few times, and this is, of course, he is human being. As much as Timo Boll might say he's a machine and we all joke that he's from another planet, he's clearly human. He's just working so hard to be at the very top of, what, 1.3, 1.4 billion strong. Wow, the counter with the angle. And you know what? Let's make it 7 billion strong. He's the best in the world. But right now he's being challenged. That backhand down the line first from Zhendong again. It's slowed down. Look at the speed of the ball. Just like a trace of light.
And that's it. As soon as there's speed and pace on the rally, that's when you feel that Zhendong maybe has a 60% chance of winning the rally. You can see the perspiration there. It is warm down there.
So it was very important for Zhendong to play that ball so wide. You see Ma Long had to really reach, and he tried to play it back cross court, whereas he otherwise might have tried to go down the line on this. I think maybe he was even thinking he would fool Zhendong, who would break over to cover the forehand. Otherwise, the obvious choice would have been to play the line. And that's at this level, you often see someone do the opposite of the obvious choice. Still a 4-point lead at the second towel break. Neither player going for the towel. Well, footwork definitely not a problem. The change of pace, and Zhendong left with the ball, but he doesn't go for the rip, tries to play a little soft. And you really have to worry about your placement, because if you leave it on the table slowly and Ma Long gets a forehand on it, it's a lot of pressure to keep the ball right down the line here. So Gavin, we're 2 points away from Zhendong sending this into the sixth with some momentum, some confidence, and putting some real pressure on the dictator.
It's getting really interesting now. Zhendong there just improving a little bit on the service delivery, keeping it just a little bit lower to the net.
That step around, we're seeing it more and more. He's taking some risks, it seems, with the backhand playing in combination, just keeping it deep to the backhand and challenging Ma Long to try and play it back down the line.
And it doesn't matter how good someone's backhand is, if you're going forehand into someone's backhand, that should be enough.
Shot block doesn't land, 11-5. What a performance from Zhendong. Again, his back against the ropes, and it will be for every game from here on out. But game 6 is coming up right after this. Back to the table for game 6, and we start to talk and think about what it means depending on who wins for the future of the sport and who's going to be on top. Gavin, you were saying.
Yeah, I mean, for Zhendong, he was to win this, you would fancy then the next 5 or 6 years that he could really dominate the sport. And in such a strong era, it is tough to be able to do that. But, you know, a guy so young to step in, take a world championship title, you would feel that he would then have the confidence to build on that. From Ma Long's perspective, if he was to win that, you would fancy then, you know, with that points accumulation, he could stay on and be world #1 for at least another year.
Yeah, we really have to wonder, when is he going to slow down? You know, for a while, in my opinion, I thought by now Fan Zhendong would have been world #1. I've been really impressed with Ma Long to be able to stay on top of his game. You know, we've seen at 28 years old, when Fan Zhendong, or rather Zhang Jike, with injuries and other things through the 28, was just dealing with a lot of physical difficulties. And the way Ma Long plays, that's his greatest concern. He's said it in interviews, injury. And he manages to avoid it by staying really healthy and working hard. Shortens it up, plays it out to the forehand side of the table. A risky shot, but it pays off.
It doesn't matter how good your serves are or how good your short serves are. It's important to be able to mix them up. Use that element of doubt.
You know, talking about if one player wins, I remember thinking as soon as Fan Zhendong beats Ma Long on the World Tour, it's over. Like a piñata, Ma Long will never beat him again. That hasn't been the case. The China Open, it was a 4-0 victory for Fan Zhendong, and Ma Long hasn't lost another one since. Not on the World Tour. Let's see how he got right in near the back of the table. If that one comes down, he's in great position to counter and spin it up.
Nice little change of serve there from Fan Zhendong. Notice how the last 5 games he's been serving into the short forehand. Suddenly they're serving a bit more on the diagonal, giving Ma Long a different look.
You know, you start to wonder what Ma Long's thinking. If this goes to Game 7, I think we're going to see a very different Ma Long attitude-wise from the start. There's a little bit of defeat in that step, even the way he lets his head hang down for a moment. Of course, he's gathering his thoughts, but the shoulders shrug a little bit. He doesn't want to have to fight a 7th. He really needs to figure out what it takes to finish it here. Again, he was up 3-1. Be a tough way to lose a championship. Again, Ma Long playing. This title could be a contender for the greatest of all time. I mean, he's just collecting. You know, if he wins the next Olympic Games, I think many will consider Ma Long to be the greatest of all time. But that's sort of the battle. Who can grab the big titles in the World Championships? One of the biggest, right behind the Olympic Games. I think that conversation would have been the same, you know, if Zhang Jike had won the Olympics this year in Rio, or last year. Many people would have said he's the greatest of all time. And now Ma Long has what appears to be a better chance to earn that title. I'm sure many people feel that he already is. Fun conversation among friends. And then, of course, you've got the future here at 20 years old, assuming Fan Zhendong could stay healthy, maybe starting when he was about that age right there. Could be the next Fan Zhendong. Although the parents don't look so intense. Oh, there they forced his hand into that shake, working on the forehand stroke. The mom really wants him to be a champion. So Fan Zhendong up 3 points here with his second serve. Gavin, this is getting thick.
Yeah, Ma Long just looking over the last few points a little bit laboured wide to his forehand, and that's probably just that element of doubt, the deception coming in from Fan Zhendong's receive of service.
I think it was Game 4 we saw so many times, and just throughout the match, that Ma Long has covered the wide forehand very well. Excellent placement, a bit of side spin as it bends into the body, wide on the backhand side for Fan Zhendong. As flexible as that upper body is, and as strong as the legs are to support Fan Zhendong to do this, that shot is asking a lot.
And this is a very similar scoreline now to when Ma Long played Timo Boll. Timo Boll was in the ascendancy in the 6th set, and Ma Long came roaring back. So let's see if that happens again.
Outstanding shot selection for Fan Zhendong, very bold. Ma Long starts to change the pace, and instead of rocketing the backhand into the backhand side like Fan Zhendong had done before, he quickly changes it up. It seems to catch Ma Long off guard. It's funny you brought up the Timo Boll match. You're right, I forgot. Timo Boll had a decent chance to go 7 with Ma Long, which would have been absolutely insane. Again, the atmosphere for the sold-out crowd is electric here. Even the way Ma Long gives the ball back, I feel like, is just in line with the way his body language is right now on the court. Feeling a bit deflated, looking for answers. And if that doesn't win, if that's not an answer, I mean, you can understand the stress of Ma Long. Playing for placement deep out down the line on the forehand side.
And sports psychologists will tell you now, okay, you're maybe going to lose this set, you're 9-3 down. What's important now over the next 4 or 5 points is to keep going. Try and find a positive mindset so that you're ready at the start of the 7th set.
Very interesting stuff. There's some positivity.
You'll feel a lot better about yourself losing 11-8 than if you're dumped out 11-3 or 11-4 and you don't really feel how the game is going.
So remember, Ma Long was up 3-1. The last time he lost from a 3-1 lead was in 2009. And the power's there. Just in case you were curious who that loss was, it was against Xu Xin, the comeback king at the Qatar Open. We saw Xu Xin yesterday, the devastating comeback, being down 5-10, saving 5 match points against the Dark Knight Lin Gaoyuan. I think the only one more painful than that for the opponent was Junmi Zutani in Kuwait from down 4-10. Xu Xin 8 points in a row. Whoa! What just happened? That was the most insane touch shot I've seen. Look at this ball. Look how slow it is and how much side spin is on it. I mean, the chop block to set it up forces Fan Zhendong into submission for a defensive ball. He barely even touches that, just nicks it. That is absolute control. So devastating that it forces the timeout.
And there goes the myth that Chinese players don't have the flair or the touch or the talent. You know, that's absolute nonsense. Look at that. It's just that most of the time you see the Chinese players playing big and powerful shots. They can do all the other stuff as well. They can do some of the stuff that Waldner can do. And there's a big example of that right there.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Gavin. It's not that they're not capable of playing touch. They're playing the wisest strategy to win. And that's what it takes. It's a little bit like Moneyball. You look at what works and you stick to the plan.
Yeah, there was no hand of concrete there as he managed to caress round the side of the ball. Beautiful.
That is so incredibly risky. I think for anyone who's ever tried to hit a softball or a lob with heavy inside-out side spin on the forehand, feels really silly when they missed that easy ball. And Ma Long did it against a ball that was relatively low. Well, that might look like goma, popular Japanese word. It's actually go-ma, go-ma long, the dragon. It's tough when the seats are equally spaced to really lean into that. So let's see if this timeout pays off for Xiaopeng. Up 9-6 here. Oh, break off the top of the net. And it's 4 game points for Fan Zhendong. By the way, in case you don't speak Mandarin, Xiaopeng, little chubby, little fatty, a term of endearment, is the nickname for Fan Zhendong throughout China. Ma Long now hoping to use 2 serves. And he gets the first point, game point saved. The pressure continues to build.
Yeah, good miss from Fan Zhendong there.
Right, we talk about table tennis's decision-making and shot selection, and you do sort of have to pat yourself on the back a little bit and say you can't second-guess yourself on that or be upset about the fact that it didn't go in, but just be happy that you're making the right decisions. Oh, man, Fan Zhendong, as Ma Long turns the corner, blasts it down the line, and we are going to a 7th and deciding game. It's the match we all wanted to see and the game we've all been waiting for. Call your friends, grab your snacks, and get comfy, because Game 7 coming up right after this. as the players come back to the table. You can see where they've been hitting the ball on the table. Zhendong mixing it up a bit more in that last game, and the score shows it. Now, Gavin, we were talking about basically the fact that Zhendong went for the backhand on his second to last shot, for the aggressive shot, how he felt more comfortable trying it again.
Yeah, definitely. You know, 4 set points. All you need is one of those, and you know, he needed to play positively. The muscle memory was there from the miss before. So yeah, all credit to him.
Short side of the table again, a big shot to start off the game. Game 7, again, the momentum with Zhendong. Look at his legs, the right, I mean, the knee almost touches the ground. He pulls that right foot so far back to be able to turn and play the short side. Once again, falling back from the table. It's down the line. It's the short side of the table for Zhendong. Gavin, when is Ma Long going to pick up and start moving out to the forehand to cover and trust his backhand in the rally?
That's it. Yeah, just a little bit too slow, but you know, it was a good spin up. He was expecting there that Zhendong would play the backhand and we would go into a backhand to backhand trade-off.
And that's one way to handcuff the opponent. Serve it really wide to the backhand. Zhendong is not likely to go for the around the net shot on the opening. Not against Ma Long. You know, the last time a men's singles final at the World Championships went to 7 games was a decade ago in 2007, Zagreb. Wang Liqin versus Ma Lin. Interestingly enough, Wang Liqin also came back from 3-1 down. Big point, and he's fired up. The dragon is breathing fire.
So even with this massive pressure on both of them, the first 4 points, nothing against the serve.
Clever idea, long push to start it off. But again, we're seeing different intensity out here. Zhendong with his chole and his clenched fist looked right in the eyes of Ma Long. Again, great friends off the table. But right now, this fight, the gloves are off. Still playing fair.
When there's a bit of heat and a bit of pressure, just don't miss your third ball.
What was that, Gavin? What shouldn't they do?
Come on, Mr. Zhendong.
Now, credit again to Ma Long for moving, anticipating well to cover the forehand. It adds extra pressure for Zhendong, who has a plan. He's played it successfully wide out to the forehand many times, but seeing Ma Long waiting there makes you second guess yourself and try to play it even wider sometimes than is available.
And there's enough pressure on this as it is. So a good service delivery and a spin on the table. Sometimes you'll find that could be enough.
Full stroke, and just like you said, Gavin.
Because it's that added intensity now, the pressure is there. Both players, their hand is a little bit tighter. When a player's hand is tight, you want to be attacking.
And this is part of the reason we were saying earlier, the Chinese players, the top Chinese players, will play boldly near the very end of a close match, and it tends to work out in their favor. Led service, Ma Long with his hand in the air. Deceptively heavy underspin. Now, one thing we haven't talked about, because it hasn't been that relevant in the match so far, is the serves of Ma Long. They're so deceptive, but they're very subtle. They're not flashy. You know, Dima has some very iconic signature serves, and Ma Long's, the pendulum serve, almost always the most traditional serve in table tennis, but still, with the third ball waiting, and how difficult and subtle it is, it's just really an intimidating and important job for the receiver to try and read it well and touch it right.
And how brave that was. So many players, when they put in a big, fast service delivery, they then go for a short serve after it. Have the bravery to step in and do the same serve again.
soft ball and spinning from Ma Long to take a 6-3 lead. First 2 points to Fan Zhendong in this game, and it's been back and forth ever since, but Ma Long is starting to run into a lead here. Remember, neither player has a timeout left, only one per side. Excellent combination. Soft and then turns the corner for the power shot. Gavin, I'm loving it.
The adrenaline has kicked in again. You could see in that service delivery, the racket of Fan Zhendong was shaking again. And hopefully, that's going to help him to bridge the gap. These 2 points that he's trailing at the moment.
Similar pattern, turns the corner, sets it up well. Excellent use of the serves to get into the point. It's like you said, Gavin, once you turn the backhand corner and get into forehand, no matter how strong your opponent's backhand is, it should win the point. And he has twice in a row.
That's what all these footwork exercises are for. Get round there under this serious amount of pressure. Explosive, big, powerful forehand to the right area.
Right, and actually I misspoke. He's played it down the line to the short side. Even more challenging for the attacker. Well, look at this. 3 points in a row for Fan Zhendong.
And I hope there it's not going down in the stats as an unforced error, that, because that kicked like a mule. You could see that really jumping off the table, that little flick out.
Absolutely, that was a very forced error, if anything. It was an earned point. I don't even think the word error should be in the sentence. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first ever final in men's singles at a World Championships for Fan Zhendong. Every point from here on out, Gavin.
Just wasn't the racket head acceleration there from Fan Zhendong, and obviously with this Nataku ball sometimes just going a little bit flatter and a little bit more direct. You need to accelerate the wrist to make sure you have that arc on the ball.
So a second serve here to capitalize on, and it's crucial for Fan Zhendong with Ma Long's serves coming up. Oh, a break off the top of the net. He is so focused right now. I didn't even see him turn to apologize. He just immediately went down to his hand. I think thankful that he was able to take the point. And it looked like there when he was giving the ball back, he gave a little apology. Looked like Ma Long almost started to clinch his fist for that.
Save your nets and edges until 3-all, 7-all.
Timeouts earlier, nets and edges later. That's the new trend for table tennis. We saw the hand shaking from Ma Long as well. The pressure on both sides. As many times as they've been in a relatively similar situation, everything changes when it's the World Championships. Also when it's the player who's right behind you trailing and waiting to take your job as the world leader.
I think in this situation as well, when the hand is shaking, it is easier to get round and play forehands. It's very tough to have that touch and feeling on the ball for your backhand when the hand is definitely wobbling.
Big point. He takes it away. Gavin, that's a really interesting point you brought up about the forehand and the arm really doing so much that the hand is not quite as relevant as it is on the backhand side.
Is this a changing of the guard at the top of world table tennis?
Will the crown be handed down? Fan Zhendong has 2 serves and could decide that with these 2. Shot. How does the body bend like that? Fan Zhendong just giving it his all to try to get a forehand into this rally. The grunt of Ma Long on that ball, and he's rebalanced quickly. His head just went from head height to about below the waist. His body contorted. Screenshots are going to be going up and amazing photos from that. But Fan Zhendong will injure himself, do whatever he has to take this title. There can't be too many points left. save nothing. And it goes long. Ma Long leaves it dangling off the forehand side, an uncomfortable ball. Will Ma Long rob this once again?
And what was the #1 rule under pressure? After a service delivery, do not miss your third ball. You don't miss that at a top world level, you don't do that in club level as well. If you're at 3-all, 8-all, 9-all, massive #1 rule.
Well, that is a great rule. We also have to remember, Ma Long is waiting there for the fourth ball attack for the counter, and it was quite a receive to an uncomfortable place. 9-all in Game 7. Ticket holders with the best investment of the year. Last two-serve combination we will see for Ma Long. Whoa! Backhand to backhand, the challenge. There was a shout from the crowd in the middle of that. Quite shocked to hear that, especially here. But to recover that ball way wide on the backhand side and keep it in play and deter the inside-out forehand. So Fan Zhendong is pointing. I'm really curious what it is. Oh, I guess just where the ball went, that it went behind the scorekeeper, the assistant umpire's score booth.
Yeah, but there was a massive shout there. We could even hear that from our commentary position. I don't know if that was really on, but obviously both players zoned in. Adrenaline is high at the moment. Maybe they didn't even hear it.
Quite possible. The focus we've seen from these two, uncanny. Ma Long with championship point. What a way to save it. Unbelievable point. The point of the match is against match point. Xiaopeng on fire, and Ma Long gave everything into that point, and still it wasn't enough to take down world #2 right off the bat. The backhand, two turning the corner. And finally a shot so wide, Ma Long a little bit farther from the table, and it costs him 85 kilometers per hour. That's the highest number I've seen on screen this tournament, Gavin.
That is adrenaline. Get that number up even more. We might even see something up in the 90s with the amount of adrenaline that's been packed into this match.
Deuce in the 7th, Fan Zhendong with the serve. And it goes loose. Look at the eye contact. That's the biggest celebration I've seen mid-match. Ma Long is ready. He is so ready to take this, but it's not over yet, and Fan Zhendong proved that, down 9-10. What a release of air and energy. One more match point for the Dragon in red.
Do you serve short, or do you serve fast into the backhand, run round blind and hit a forehand? It's up to him.
Short side of the table, Ma Long once again retains the title. The racket in the air. The dictator dictates how it goes. Deuce in the 7th, and he pulls a Fan Zhendong on Fan Zhendong for match point. Ma Long still on top of the world. 3 years unstoppable, and at 20 years old, he holds back Fan Zhendong, who will remain #2 in the world. What's it gonna be? We're gonna have an interview on the court from the man who shared his love with the world after winning the Olympic gold medal. He can't believe it. Absolutely tested down to the line here. Both hands in the air this time, and the racket that was tossed is collected along with the title. What a performance, Gavin.
He did so well on match point there. He ran round blind off the serve. He gave himself lots and lots of space to rip that forehand. Ballsy, really, really positive, and look at him now celebrate.
And this is not the first time we've seen this gesture. Ma Long held the flag with Zhang Jike, shared the flag of China to hold up as a team after winning the Olympic Games in Rio, and once again immediately calls over Fan Zhendong, the runner-up, to share this moment with him. A painful moment for Fan Zhendong, but a moment of honor for China and the two best players in the world raising the best flag in table tennis. Once again, there are the scores on screen. And I'll say it again, the best investment for a table tennis fan was a ticket to this match for the last day of the 2017 Liebherr World Table Tennis Championships, live from Dusseldorf. Gavin, what a thriller.
Unbelievable the way that he managed to close that match out. Credit to both players. right from the start, it was high quality. After half of the first set, when Ma Long was struggling to get into it, from then on, it was just exceptional stuff as he falls to the ground.
Good thing the racket didn't come down, but at this point, he would take